This shit just cut the whole goddamn thing off. This.
Yeah, let's just get to the meat and potatoes of tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Hold on. Damn, I wonder which one. Bam. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. So it's good. It's good.
You got an echo.
You said I got an echo?
Yeah, hold on.
Everybody bear with us. It's been a minute since we've been on the platform together. Scoring Black Man Podcast. Fire Talk Radio Podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. God, it's pissing me.
Yeah, we having some technical difficulties right now. The big homie been traveling abroad. He in a new location, so he's having some issues with the equipment on his end. So everybody just bear with us. Should be a pretty good topic tonight with everything going on with the political atmosphere, with the vote. Everybody divided between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, both of the presidential candidates running for the 2025 election. So as soon as he gets everything up and going, we're going to dive right in. Stay tuned.
Have a Jewish friend?
No, sir, I do not have a Jewish friend. I am the black Jew. I am the black Hebrew. I am a member of the family of the black Hebrew Israelites.
All right, brother W. You hear me? Brother W, you on mute if you can hear me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. We're just gonna go ahead and get
Well, we broadcasting live or
Huh?
I said we on live or no?
Yeah, we on live.
All right.
Yeah, we on live right now. So let's go ahead and just get into it, man. Tuned in to the Scoring Black Man. I got an echo. Can you hear the echo?
It's not really no echo on my end.
Hey, can y'all hear echo right now? Because I hear a bad one over here.
If everybody hear an echo, press 1. If you don't hear an echo, press 2.
All right, we're going to get into it. You tuned in on the Scoring Black Man podcast, episode 59. It's called Should Black Americans, a.k.a. Yah'S Chosen Ones, vote for the next American president?
Yeah, your audio isn't doubled up, but the audio stream kind of weak though.
And it's because it has two of my what's names on here. It won't take it off. And I have to start the whole thing over.
You got 2 windows open on your end?
Yeah, it won't close. I had 3 of them open. It just closed one of them. I don't know how it did it, but it won't close the other one.
You might be screen sharing.
I'm trying to. Let's see here. Hold on one second.
Yeah, we're gonna have to chop and screw this one up on the remix. Oh man, we done lost the arc again.
Still got an echo?
Nah, you sound better.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's still messed up on my end. I can still hear it, but man, we're gonna get past. All right, John, you man, I'm gonna let you do the map so they won't have that.
All right. Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Scoring Black Man podcast. I'm with the main host, Zadok Hilltop Israel, and the co-host, Don Yehuda from Fire Talk Radio Podcast. This is episode 59. Should Black Americans, aka Yah'S Chosen Ones, vote for the next American president? That is the topic of today's podcast. Should we vote? Should we even participate in the voting process for the new elected president of the United States of America? That's the question. I mean, my personal opinion, I'm not a voter. I've only voted twice in my life. That was during the Obama administration. I've had many debates and conversation with friends, colleagues, and associates about voting. And most of them trying to encourage me, convince me, sway me to vote. But I have my reasons as to why I do not vote. But on the flip side, I do understand why we should vote. But which vote? Because there's 3 levels of voting, and we're going to get in that tonight. But I'm not a participant in the voting system. I know a lot of people state that, when you don't vote, you don't have a right to say what's going on with the dynamics of the country, what's going on in the government, or anything in between. But I don't agree with that because I believe that us as a people have more power on another structure or level within the society that is more beneficial to us. So with that being said, what's your thoughts on it, my brother? Should we vote? Should we not vote?
I'm gonna pretty much say for president of America, no. But for your local, like let's say mayors, commissioners, local state senators, I would say yeah because we grew up with them, so we have a relationship. We can pop up at the office, sometimes their houses, and have a conversation with them. You can't do that with the president. You don't know, and it's a bigger scheme. It's a higher level, and now you're dealing with world leaders with more evil. And the Bible tells us not to be voting for a so-called king, which is a president.
Right.
It's just a temporary king or temporary queen.
Right.
So that's my
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of already hit the nail on the head with the local voting. I was trying to allude it, but since we already there, when it got to the end at the beginning, we might as well just be like the creator and just lay it out. So basically, man, you have three levels of the voting system. It's the federal, the state, and the local voting. And like the brother was stipulating, is that if you are a proponent to voting, then the local level would probably be the best avenue for anybody to vote because it has the most immediate and substantial benefit for the populace. Anything else, you really don't have any real control, any will say so. That's why I alluded to I don't vote. I especially don't vote in the federal or the state. But if I were to vote, then it would be on the local level because the local level, as you'll see later in the podcast, we're going to touch on these things as we go on in the podcast, is that these things affects the community, and the community is the most essential part of it's the foundation or the building blocks of a nation. So if the community not right, the nation not right. And so with that being said, we're going to get into this first video. Does your vote count? How is your vote counted? Who controls the vote? Are you in control of your vote? Does your vote matter when you go to the ballot box and vote for either Trump or Kamala Harris? Or is somebody else actually pulling the strings behind that? So we're going to look at this video and see what really happens when the voting process begins. And real quick, for all of those who don't know, go over to my channel, Fire Talk Radio Podcast, like, share, and subscribe. New videos, new things going to be coming out very soon. And you already on the Scoring Black Man podcast. Like, share, subscribe. It only takes less than a second to hit that like button and to share it to your platform. So do so if you're watching.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm going to put myself on.
And while we're waiting for that video to come up, make sure that you're educating yourself out there on the decisions you make, because I've seen a lot of people voting just to be voting. There's no sound up.
It should have had. Hold on one second.
Yep, we good.
Of the Electoral College during presidential election years. But what exactly is the Electoral College? Simply said, it is a group of people appointed by each state who formally elect the president and vice president of the United States. To understand how this process began and how it continues today, we can look at the Constitution of the United States. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution. It specifies how many electors each state is entitled to have. Since 1964, there have been 538 electors in each presidential election. How did they decide on the number 538? Well, the number of electors is equal to the total voting membership of the United States Congress, 435 representatives plus 100 senators and 3 electors from the District of Columbia. Essentially, the Democratic candidate and Republican candidate are each trying to add up the electors in every state so that they surpass 270 electoral votes, or just over half of 538 votes, and win the presidency. So how do states even get electoral votes? Each state receives a particular number of electors based on population size. The census is conducted every 10 years, so every time the census happens, states might gain or lose a few electoral votes. Let's say you're a voter in California, a state with 55 electoral votes. If your candidate wins in California, they get all 55 of the state's electoral votes. If your candidate loses, they get none. This is why many presidential candidates want to win states like Texas, Florida, and New York. If you currently add up the electoral votes of those 3 states, you would have 96 electoral votes. Even if a candidate won North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and West Virginia, they would only gain 31 electoral votes total from those 8 states. Here's where it can get a little tricky. On a rare occasion, like in the year 2000, someone can win the popular vote but fail to gain 270 electoral votes. This means that the winner may have won and collected their electoral votes by small margins, winning just enough states with just enough electoral votes, but the losing candidate may have captured large voter margins in the remaining states. If this is the case, the very large margins secured by the losing candidate in the other states would add up to over 50% of the ballots cast nationally. Therefore, the losing candidate may have gained more than 50% of the ballots cast by voters, but failed to gain 270 of the electoral votes. Some critics of the Electoral College argue the system gives an unfair advantage to states with large numbers of electoral votes. Think of it this way. It is possible for a candidate to not get a single person's vote, not one vote, in 39 states or the District of Columbia, yet be elected president by winning the popular vote in just 11 of these 12 states: California, New York, Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Georgia, or Virginia. This is why both parties pay attention to these states. However, others argue that the Electoral College protects small states such as Rhode Island, Vermont, and New Hampshire, and even geographically large states with small populations like Alaska, Wyoming, and the Dakotas. That's because a candidate can't completely ignore small states, because in a close election, every electoral vote counts. There are certain states that have a long history of voting for a particular party. These are known as safe states. For the past 4 election cycles, in 1996, 2000, 2004, and 2008, Democrats could count on states like Oregon, Maryland, Michigan, and Massachusetts, whereas the Republicans could count on states like Mississippi, Alabama, Kansas, and Idaho. States that are teetering between parties are called swing states. In the past 4 election cycles, Ohio and Florida have been swing states, twice providing electoral votes for a Democratic candidate and twice providing electoral votes for a Republican candidate. Think about it. Do you live in a safe state? If so, is it a Democratic or Republican safe state? Do you live in a swing state? Are your neighboring states swing or safe? Is the population in your state increasing or decreasing? And do not forget, when you're watching the electoral returns on election night every 4 years and the big map of the United States is on the screen, know that the magic number is 270 and start adding.
Well, alrighty then. That lets you know right there what's going on. Do your vote matter? I would say hell to the no. It don't matter. No, it doesn't matter. It's the illusion of inclusion, brother. They got us all duped, hoodwinked, and bamboozled, thinking that your vote actually mattered. And if you're around our age, you've seen in our lifetime that your vote didn't matter. Your vote is known as the popular vote, and we've seen presidents that had, or the presidential candidate that had popular votes, won that, but then did not get the presidency. Case in
Yeah.
point was back during the Bush administration. You know,
Yeah, we seen
so
Hillary Clinton.
right. Oh, Hillary. So the vote don't matter. So tell me, since this is not hidden information, the Electoral College was actually kind of instituted around the time of the Constitution. Um, why is it that people put so much energy into the federal vote when in all actuality there's a college of people? It says what, 538 candidates or
Yeah,
electors that picks
yeah.
the president. So why do we as a people or as a nation put so much energy into voting for the people that they place in front of us when in all actuality, if the person they want is there, it's a good chance that your vote might not elect the president that everybody elected or wanted to be elected. Why is that?
They just want to. Uh, we have been taught that our vote counts, and that if we don't vote, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. So you know how that. And we've been around long enough to know that those individual votes don't count. If we were smart enough and actually want somebody in there, you would populate to the states that has the most electoral votes. Uh, this is why I know that presidential election is rigged. All of these presidents share the same bloodline, even Obama. We have to look at that. We have to know that the leader of the is always going to be elected by the elite instead of us. They just give you something good about it, because if they were doing it person by person, the agenda would never happen for the people at hand. So they have to, throw their electronic votes in there. This state gets more votes than this state. Why? Why? It should be vote for vote, person per person. So uh, that's my thought. And it's a sham, you know what I'm saying, and a scam.
So I would ask you this then, because it is a sham and a scam. Is are these candidates then elected or is they selected?
Selected. They already pre. Do you think the first time Donald Trump ran, Hillary really won more? We know she won more, vote for vote. Even though I was hoping Donald Trump would anyway. You know what I'm saying? I'm like you. I don't vote on no level, but I would, like the city and county type level. People I grew up with, like football with, or whatever. Um, so yeah, they already, man. They just give us a voting selection period just to keep you in a little mood, hypnotize you, put you on a spell, and so you think your vote really count. And black people get real patriotic, man, around this time of year. And so, if you talk to your people, let's say you got mothers still living, older people still living in your family, you say somebody, yeah, I like Donald Trump, keep it real more. Man, you better get your head snatched off, man. A lot of people are stuck in that Democrat thing, and
Yeah.
they never done nothing, folks.
No, they haven't. Actually, the Democratic Party was actually the opposing party to what you call yourself, quote unquote, Black America. That was the white supremacist KKK that actually instituted the Democratic Party back in its inception. But nowadays, you can't tell a Negro anything about the Democratic Party. They vote Democrat just to vote Democrat. They won't know a policy. They won't know an agenda or anything with a lot of the candidates that are Democrats. But because they're in that party, they're just vote to elect. We need to vote to
That's
elect
it.
because it's the Democrats.
That's it. That's all they do. Just vote to select. It's just like Professor Lovely Lady said, and I'm tired of hearing that our ancestors died so that we can vote. So we have to gain the right. I mean, she hit it right on the head. Like
Right.
they died under a deep spell. You know what I'm saying? You know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
they were stripped of everything. You know, they were keeping them from the schools so they couldn't be educated on, the level of the country that we was, in or whatever. And because they were
Right.
changing schools and changing our languages, and we couldn't read this, we couldn't read that. And our people died under the spell. And so you can't say like we're laying down our ancestors if we don't worship white Jesus, if we don't worship white America, vote. You know, it's a spell. Like we breaking that chain, man. We waking up out of our sleep. This is a great awakening. So,
Mm-hmm.
hell to the no. We're not letting down our ancestors by not voting. That's just another shame tactic that certain Black Americans will learn from their white daddies.
Right. And I second the motion on that because, like you said, back in those times around when the Constitution was created back in 1776, I believe it was. You could correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but our people was in slavery for the most part. You have very few free Negroes at that time, and there was even fewer Negro slave owners. So the majority of our people were enslaved to some degree in those times, leading up all the way up until um, the abolishment of slavery. But then, even with that, they instituted the Jim Crow laws and other means to keep us enslaved. It was an ever evolving and revolving door on how they control the Negroes in America and, try to make the most out of utilizing our free labor and resources to their benefit. So, when you talk about, jumping into this system, because uh, it's a brother, an elder that speaks on it. His name is Dr. Claude Anderson, and he tells
Oh,
you, he stands up for black empowerment, and I say black loosely because we're not black. That does not denote nationality for our people. If anybody that claims black, you still sleep. You're in a deep slumber right now, dreaming dreams and counting sheep. But he denotes that your votes were automatically suppressed within the Constitution. And so a lot of things that happen to our community, unbeknownst to many of us, is that racism is intertwined or interwoven within the American society. And a lot of things that we're fighting for, you're going to continue to fight because racism and white supremacy rears its head and evolves and transforms to where it's not ever really going to be done away with. It's just going to evolve, just like at a time when so-called Black America was evolving and we're utilizing the marches and um the civil rights and things of that nature. We evolved to try to better ourselves throughout decades within this country. So does white supremacy in the same effect evolve and get better at doing what it does. So you voting is just another notch in the belt of, like I said earlier, an illusion of inclusion when you're voting on the federal level, because these candidates are placed in front of you. You don't have the power to vote for who you think is the best. You're voting for who they placed in front of you, and you're picking the lesser of two evils, so to say. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
Exactly. You picking the lesser week. I mean, they just saying good cop, bad cop.
Right.
That's it.
Starsky and Hutch.
Good ain't the angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other.
And you can, hey bro, you could look at both candidates, because I was having this conversation on Facebook. And I was asking people, because I've seen a lot of our people saying they were voting for Kamala when they first announced that she was entering into the presidential race. And they was like, yeah, I'm voting for Kamala. So I started to see a lot of this. So I just wanted to throw a question out there, because I like to just, at times be an agitator, I guess. But I said, name some of her policies. What are y'all voting for her for? Like, name some of her policies. I want to hear what her policies. I was generally interested on top of being an agitator, but I really wanted to see, okay, who actually is, studying the candidates, studying their agendas, following their policies. What do they have in store for quote unquote Black America on top of America as a whole, so forth and so on. And what I seen was a lot of identity politics, meaning identity politics is when you vote for somebody who look like you. It's a brother or a sister that's in office. This happened during the Obama administration. Most of the votes from the Black community was identity politics because we finally, quote unquote, got a brother in office. So we voting. Listen, I was one of them. I ain't gonna lie. I was one of them. We got a brother in office. I ain't know a iota of what he stood for. I just seen a brother that was running. I'm like, yo, we got a brother in office. I know things about to change, yada, yada, yada. And I know a lot of Black America did the same thing. All they doing now is flipping the script. Because if we're not talking about Blackism, now we're talking about genderism. Oh, it's a woman. So that's what I was seeing. She's a Black woman. Now they compiled it. A Black woman. I got to vote because not only is the person Black, it's a woman. It's a woman.
Right.
So what's your thoughts on that, brother?
On what part? Woman?
On them just doing identity politics and voting for somebody that's just from the quote unquote Black community, which she's not, but on that.
I got you. So the first time, like you, the first time Obama ran, that's the only time I ever voted for president because I came into the truth probably like 2014, 2015. So the first time he had ran, what was it, 2008 or something like that?
When he ran 2008.
Okay, 2008.
2007 going into 2008.
Yeah, so I voted that time. That's the only time I ever voted. I don't think I voted this time. But yeah, you thought you had a brother. We thought he could be one of our people, but they're still up in the air right now. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, the first time Biden ran, I remember he won, and I was at a bar in Phoenix, Arizona, and even the white person, yeah, this is a special night for women. I'm like, what happened? I'm watching this, but I'm like, why is it a special night? Because she's a vice president? Like, that ain't, and, Black people, they swear that she's Black.
Right.
Where, I think her daddy Black. No, her daddy's not Black. Just because she's from Jamaica don't mean she's Black. See what I'm saying? So, They don't know her policies. They don't know she don't put a lot of Black men behind in California for marijuana. Now, we all know California been medical marijuana state for I don't know how long. They've been recreational for how long now. But she takes pleasure in locking Black men up, even though she's been to an HBCU. But an HBCU will take anybody. They got white boys to go to HBCU, white girls to go there. Anybody with melanin in their skin, not melanin, you can go there. Negroes accept everybody. So it's a token. It's just a token. Like, we're gonna give you a woman, and she got some melanin in her. She says she's cleaning collard greens in the bathtub. She's shucking and jiving for the Negroes, but she don't have no policy for the Negroes except to lock your Black asses up.
Right. Listen, that's a whole nother podcast in itself, just touching on the candidates and just the individualism and what they doing or not doing within the campaign run. Because when we first was thinking about doing this podcast, we kind of was thinking on like, all right, let's put something together to this identity politics that's going on right now, and let's just discuss the topics of why we're voting for who we're voting for. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people were getting upset because they felt like, okay, you're going at Kamala, so that must mean you're voting for Trump. No, that does not mean we're voting for Trump. That just means, why are you voting for her? Can you explain to me why you're voting? Like, can you explain her policies? What does she stand on? Because the narrative is she used to be a prosecutor out in California, and that she prosecuted a large number of so-called Black or African-American males out there, and with injustice out there, like over sentencing brothers for like petty crimes, like possession of marijuana and so forth. Now, I'm
Right.
not going to speak on it because I didn't do too much deep research into that, so I'm not going to speak on what I don't know.
No, hold on, Tony. Let me pause you for a second. Did you see the guy that Auto Dialogue had on last week that she gave 50 years to, and he said that when he got sentenced, he was in there laughing, but they
I didn't.
overturned it, and they gave him they awarded him 13 million because he had
I
done like
seen
6 years.
I seen that one, but I didn't watch it all the way. I watched some of it, but not all of it.
Okay. Now go ahead,
Break it down. What he was talking about.
She said my mic kind of messed up. Let me get my mic right. Go ahead. No, let me figure it out.
Yeah, it's kind of going in and out a little bit, so I don't know if that's a connection or if you're just far away from it. But yeah, I didn't really catch that one. But you know, even Judge Joe Brown, man, he been going in on her. Judge Joe Brown, man, from the rip, they asked him a question on there. He didn't hold no punches back. He went all the way in on her. Nah, your mic is really jacked up. It's not doing anything. All right, test it out. Nope. Oh man, yo, they jamming your airwaves all the way overseas, bro. Yeah, it sounds like some chipmunk. Nope, it's not. It's not working at all. Did you unplug it and try to plug it back in? Everybody, bear with us. We're having some technical difficulties right now. Yeah, I hear.
What about
I
now?
hear you now. Yep, I hear you.
Okay. I don't know what the hell that was. But yeah, Judge Brown, you know, saying he been saying, you know, that she basically slept her way up to the top. You know what I'm saying? That she only messed with married men. You know what I'm saying? He was talking about her fake ass trying to be black. He broke all down her theology. I mean, you know, he knew a lot about it because he's been out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the other guy that had on, uh, she gave him, what got him 50 years. He ended up doing 6 years. They overturned him because he was innocent. And I bet they had him like a murder or something. And there was no evidence. They, you know, overturned him for 6 years and rewarded him like 13 million. 13 or I can't remember exactly which one it was. You still there, Yohana?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. But yeah, you know, so she's been known to be fake and just pretty much leech to the black community. They always do it. Either they're gonna give you some mulattoes, on which, you know, a real man, you know, a Gentile man with a black woman, preferably a white father, black mother. They'll give you that Dawn Lemon. They're gonna give you that, and that Tia and Tamara. They're gonna give you the one that was on Kanye West. They're gonna give you all the ones that got on TV, all the newscasters. And they're gonna give you somebody like her. No black, she just looks like she. I mean, she got melanin.
Right.
I see people out here all day look like Negro, but they ain't Negro. But let me welcome Will into the building. Will, we just breaking stuff down real quick. But yeah. What you think about it?
I think that, like I mentioned earlier, that so-called Black America is deep in sleep because we're the only nation that identifies by an adjective, by a color grade, which is black. One thing they don't realize is that when you talk to other melanated brothers and sisters from outside of this country, they do not identify with the color black. You might get some of the newer ones who've been westernized who will say they black, There's counts of some African brothers coming over here fighting for their identification as black, but on the whole, as a majority, they identify with their nationalism or their tribalism. They don't identify with black. So anytime that you see us as a people interacting with other melanated people and we say black, that they'll be quick to denounce that they're black. They're already telling you that they're not you. So in the case of why I mention that is because us as a people see Kamala Harris as a so-called black woman, but her roots tie into other areas. What's interesting is when you look at her birth certificate that's online, and I can't say if that's the actual authentic birth certificate, but they're saying it is. Her race is not listed on her birth certificate. Now, her mother, who is from India or Hindustan, which India was once named or called, she's labeled as Caucasian, and her father is labeled as Jamaican. But that doesn't denote the race. That just denotes a nationality to some degree, but not a race. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, so to say, that is surrounding presidential candidate Kamala Harris. But I mean, we could sit here we might have to do a episode on that, bro. We might have to really sit down and just dig out all the facts on both candidates. So that way we're unbiased, and that way that we can give a full unbiased breakdown of what we researched and found on them. Hey, the Travel Wolf, is that the name? Travel Wolf. Hey, welcome to the Scoring Black Man podcast. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Yeah, that's correct. The Travel Wolf. Yep, you got it right. I'm good. How you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing good. Thanks for asking.
Pretty
Did
good.
you have any ideas, any input or opinion on the subject so far?
Oh yeah, I got a lot to talk about. Hilltop know how I get down. I got a lot to say. I mean, I know he said that there's some bullet points you guys want to stick on. I'll just try to keep it simple though. The premium thing going around, it reminds me of this story. There was an Egyptian man who came to America. He immigrated. He was a professor. Came to America. It was like, you're welcome. Come on in here. He did the immigration paperwork. He saw that on the immigration paperwork, they put him down as Caucasian, as white. He was like, yo, that's wrong. That's wrong. And he was like, I'm black. I want to be put down as a black American, right?
Yeah, that's
No,
the African
no
dude I'm
cap.
talking about right there.
Yeah. And so they said, well, you can't come in. He said, that's fine, but I want to be recognized as black. If you're not going to let me in, I don't want to come in. So he fought them for like a decade. You know the story. He fought them for like a decade and they finally relented and identified him as black. I say that to mean that they're going to play a game. They're going to play a game, and in a way we can play a game too. But the point I'm saying is that Kamala Harris is not black. Okay, she's not black because she's never said that. We said she's black, or they say she's black. She has never said she's black, and there's no way she can say she's black. And black is just an ambiguous way of saying people who are melanated. But as you know, they're not really called Indians. That's a misnomer. I refer to them as Paxtile because that's who their people were. I'm not really too familiar what tribe they come from, but they're not Indian people. They're Brahma, they're things like that, that type of stuff. It's really complicated. But until she comes out and says she's a black woman, she's not a black woman. And I think what they're trying to, and like you mentioned before, what do they have us surrounded with, right? It's just a bait and switch. The first gentleman who would be the first gentleman, right, is an older white man. Her vice president is an older white man. Is another Joe Biden. So basically, if she croaks, we're right back to grumpy old dudes like that quick, right? That's what happens. So they're just doing a game. Now, the game that we can play, but it is a dangerous game. The game that we can play, because I'm going to tell you guys what I think about Trump in a minute. The game that we can play is that we can say a black woman beat a white woman into the highest office. That's how strong white patriarchy is in this country. They will not let their women be above them. But we can gain ground in saying we had two quote unquote, people of color in the highest office in the same generation. And that can give us a lot of leverage as far as our reputation goes socially, as far as people saying, we're not stupid, all those different things, right? We can say, well, we're not stupid. We run it. We ran the country for what's that? Like Obama did 8, so she'll probably do 8. So we ran the country for like 12 years, 12, 13 years, right? We ran the country for 12, 13 years. So we're not a stupid people. And we can get a little bit of mileage out of that. But I'm gonna tell you that I think Trump is the better bet. I'm gonna tell you why. Because what they've done to this man, right? They've pissed him off. They pissed him off to the point where he really will have an agenda of vengeance on them. And it won't even be about the stuff he wants to do, the white supremacy stuff, right? His agenda would be to just eradicate them, the fakocrats. I call them the fakocrats because they really don't like us. Historically, it's always been the Republicans who freed us. It wasn't the Democrats. Somehow that switched. JFK never gave us our civil rights. People get that wrong. It was Lyndon B. Johnson. People hang up the photos of JFK like he was our savior. It wasn't. It was the Republican Texans who gave us all the civil rights bills that we got. That gave us our right to petition the court. Really, not really
Correct.
any protections. Not any really protections, but the right to petition the court. So I say that the Republicans have always been on our side. I think if we put Trump in there, and I think you mentioned before, yes, she is a top cop. She is the motherfucking police. She's the motherfucking police. She's likely to give the Dems what they really, really wanted, where every violent crime is a life sentence, and every non-violent crime is 50 years or some real draconian time. And we already got that, So she's likely to do that because she is the top cop at the end of the day.
Right.
She's the police. So I think Trump has had a rude awakening. Never before has he ever been as depraved as a white man in his whole life. They done convicted him. He got felonies. He's been shot at. He's out on bail. They're really trying to like get him in a situation in a circumstance.
Hey, he'd be the next face on the new penny.
Yeah. No, exactly. Because where he's on right now, if he wasn't coming in there to quote unquote kind of like do a purge, he's definitely going to do one now. Because they shot at the man, And matter of fact, they humiliated him. They tried to blow his head off in front of the whole world.
Right.
I mean, let's think about that. Don't forget about that. They just I tell my dad, because my dad's into the church. He believed in that Christianity stuff. Like I tell my dad, I said, you can't kill a devil. He tried to kill a devil and it ain't work. You can't kill a devil like that. Nobody told them. But he the devil, he's the devil. And you can see that. But I will say that he don't believe. The reason why I would support Trump is only for this one reason. It's only for these two reasons. First off, I know he don't really believe that shit he's espouting. Because when he got shot at, he ducked. He ain't had the convictions to stand up straight and show he's really ready to die for saying that shit. You know what I'm saying? He ain't ready to die behind this shit. You know what I mean? He ducked. You look at the video. He hits the deck, bro. If he was really white supremacy 101, he would have stood up, bumped his chest, said, "Come on and shoot me. You can't kill it, Ideal." He wasn't about that life, man. And the second reason is that we know behind the scenes what they think about us, what these fakocrats think about us. They the reasons why our communities is all in peril. They not no better, but I think if we allow them to get rid of someone who has the power to remove them, we just got to be able to be strong enough to hang around and get who's ever left over. Because after they tear each other apart this time, like they did the last time, we didn't capitalize on it. They tear each other apart this time in the Civil War. We just have to be strong enough to still be around to deal with who's ever left over, because they'll be too weak. They'll be too weak to do anything against us. And we just got to be together. We got to grow our locks. We got to start saying our vows. We got to get back into our Nazarene spirit. You know what I'm saying? We got to start adopting our names. We got to start using the right terminology. And then, you know, we got to be one. We got to start speaking Hebrew, learn Hebrew. You know, we got to get from underneath their thumb, because that's what's gonna happen. That's just my thoughts. You know, that's
Well,
what
you know,
needs to
Trevor
happen.
Wolf, everything you talked about is right. You know, nationalism is the topic of the day, and that's something that us so-called Black people need to really harp on, really need to get educated about, because everything you said, from the identity, the self-identification, the language, the culture, going back to these things, all are the building blocks of nationalism, and that's something that we don't have because we really gravitate and hold on to these dead entitlements like Black, African American, Afro American, so forth and so on, that, you know, that's not recognized in legalese or anything. That's just, you know, something that denotes death or, you know, the uneducated
Mm-hmm.
or the enslavement of a people. So, you know, we're gonna move on to the next one, because I'm real curious to hear what you and you know,
Dr.
Hilltop had
Claude.
to say. So we're gonna get to this next video. It's a video that actually highlights a brother, Dr. Claude Anderson, speaking on some things. And
Mm-hmm.
this brother is very, very esteemed and knowledgeable in the field of, you know, politics and what so-called Black America should do to empower themselves. Should Blacks vote? You know, he's gonna talk on that or touch on that as to why we should vote, or if it even matters if we vote. um Start at the 2 minute and 48 second mark and go to about 6:40.
On the earth. Blacks were the original people on the earth. And so what do you call them? Native Americans or original people? That's entitled, that's what Blacks are entitled to, which makes them very special people. And so right now, we need to do something about these Blacks with the present administration. See, Biden got elected with he and Harris running as vice president because they promised they're going to do certain things for Black folk. They've been in there now over a year, about a year and almost a year and a half, and they have not done one single thing for Black folk. I don't think the word Black has ever crossed their lips since they got elected. But now, when it was time for the vote to go out, they put up a pretense, a false, a straw man talking about, you know, we got to get the Black vote because that a Black vote is like simply, we need to have that to get elected. First of all, they didn't need the Black vote because, you see, Black folk were outnumbered 9-1 in this country. You got 9 other ethnic groups in the country, and if you break it down to parts, Black folk only constitute 1 out of the 9 or 10 groups in this country. So Black vote is not that necessary. They did that because they're gonna do what they call sneaky suppression of the Black vote. They've been suppressing the Black vote since the Constitution in 1789, and people are talking about they're suppressing our vote. The Constitution suppresses your vote. Until you go back and deal with the Constitution and correct it, you're going to always be suppressed. And that's built into the Constitution, that Black folk were to be suppressed. And even in 18 after the Civil War, they went back and suppressed you again in the second Constitution. You got 2 constitutions in the United States. You got the first one written by Thomas Jefferson, and back in 1789. And you got a second constitution that was written in 1865. It was written strictly and solely for Black folk. Later on, they changed it from being a second constitution because they didn't want you to know about it. And in there, that's where all your civil rights acts came out of. Because the whole point of the civil rights movement was supposed to be to correct the Dred Scott decision of 1857, which says Black people in America have no rights. But you do have rights. You got a second constitution, which is started with the 13th Amendment. The 13th, 14th, and the 15th Amendment are major elements in the second constitution. And on top of that, they put in what's called the civil rights law that was passed in 1865 and 1866, which specifically identified Black folk and said the whole point of these laws and the civil rights laws and those constitution amendments is to correct and reverse the 1857 Dred Scott decision. They're not there. They didn't put those laws up for minorities or poor folk. You didn't have the minorities and poor folk in America. All those people started coming to America after the Civil War was over. When they commented, they can come in here and they can get low wages and work on the railroads like the Chinese and all of them, but they were still safe. Nobody was denying them anything. They can have their own communities and have their own businesses and make money that way and be competitive with black folk. So Chinese, Asians came in here. They've been coming in ever since. And lately they've been bringing in even Pacific Islanders who've been doing very well because they're displacing black folk. You go to a hospital or for any kind of a medical treatment right now, about 90% of the medical people you're going to find in those various institutions and on those organizations are going to be other people other than blacks or whites. They're going to be people coming in either from the Far East, from Asia, or coming in from the Pacific Islands. And so you find out another thing they're doing now. These
Wow. Hey, a lot of things that he said, because that video is a few years old and he's been harping on this for a very long time. And there's a few bullet points that I like for us to kind of touch on. One is that blacks are outnumbered by other racial groups 9-1, as he mentioned. So does our vote really matter? For those that really are in tune and really are harping about voting, does your vote really matter when they have 9 to 8 other categories of races that vote and might not vote like you vote? We see the outcome to a lot of votes and a lot of movements here in America outside of the so-called black community as to why they're elevating in social status and we're either remaining or declining in social status. The other bullet point, remember that blacks being outnumbered 9-1. The other one he mentioned was that there were 2 constitutions created. The first one, which benefited white society, and then another constitution, which the foundation of it was the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment that benefited so-called black society. And then the last one, other nationalities benefiting from our rights. What are your thoughts on any of those bullet points? It doesn't matter who go, just jump in.
Now repeat that bullet point again right there. I'll go first.
What is your thoughts on the black community being outnumbered by other racial groups when it comes to voting? Should we really harp on voting when we're outnumbered in the voting category by other nations of people?
We're outvoted, and the reasons why we're outvoted a lot of times because not only we're a minority in every state in America, we're also in prison houses, in prison homes. We're having our voting rights taken away some kind of way, and they're keeping us from. Remember back in the day, they used to now go to the places black people go vote at, the KKK and all the skinheads and everybody with a shotgun running Negroes the hell away. They wanted to vote.
Right.
The point that Dr. Clark was making was right on point. Your vote's not outnumbered. They said 9-1.
Yep, 9-1.
You're outnumbered 9-1. You can't even probably win the popularity vote unless you're joining on to a bunch of crackers. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I say, man, it's a dead end situation. You know what I'm saying? Y'all just voting just because it's a tradition. To like Professor Lovely Lady said, your parents gonna tell you, gonna shame you to death if your ass don't vote, and you better vote because those Republicans, those racist white folks, like the damn Democrats, them motherfuckers promise you every damn thing, do a damn thing for you. And so you Negroes should be tired of Democrats. White folks really think we stupid. And you niggas are stupid because you still doing the same damn dumb ass shit. Instead of following what the Most High tell you in the Bible to do, you better follow what the white people because that's your God. Now you can pass that well now.
A travel wolf.
Yeah.
Now he mentioned there was 2 constitutions, right? Mm-hmm. Now, how familiar are you with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment?
Well, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go off the beaten path. I'm very familiar with them, but I'm gonna have to go off the beaten path for a second because I'm gonna give you my philosophy behind it. Okay. But
Okay.
if you don't mind, so entertain me here for a minute. First off, I do respect Dr. Claude Anderson. There are some things he's incorrect about, though, in the statements that he made. And to show you, I got to do it. I got to do it the whole way. I don't know. I'm just gonna go first, and I'm gonna show you guys something really cool that'll help clear this all up. Okay. First off, he is correct about our vote not counting, but we misunderstand. They miseducate us. Registering to vote was not about actually voting. It was about being able to stand on a jury, being able to judge the white man doing his Ku Klux Klan rampage through the Black South. Okay, and that's how they maintain that type of supremacy over us. That's what supremacy is. You know, they can murder you. The jury is their people. They say you stole a goat, and everybody believes that's why you got killed because you stole a goat. And they let the man go because this is cousins and uncles on the jury. So originally, the whole point of being able to register, which is the first element of voting, was purely just for judicial purposes. It had nothing to do with, and overturning elections and everything. Because if you understand what America is, there's really no such thing as democracy. It's an illusion. All this is an illusion. It's part of the game. It's part of the game, and as you can see, it fell apart. The game that America does is this: they go around the world and they say, "You treat your people so bad, and we're going to invade you and make it better for them." And the world's like, "Yeah, do that." And then that country will say to America, "But what about those citizens you treat bad?" And America will say, "What citizens we treat bad?" And they say the African American ones, and they say they're not citizens. You see what I'm saying? Anytime you got to put a moniker in front of American, you're not an American, because they don't do that. They barely do that with Italian.
Let me ask you this before you get too far into it.
Yeah.
Are so-called Black American citizens according to the law?
Well, that's what I'm going to get to. That's what I'm going to show you right now. If I can share my screen, because this is important, and I want to share this with y'all so that if they come and get me, because I already talked about it, and I want to share it with y'all so that it gets out there, the information gets out there. Maybe somebody will take this up. So technically, we're not anything. We're not anything, and this is why we're not anything. We're not anything because we don't identify with anything. We can't identify with our oppressor. Never was going to happen. You lived in the nation that basically ignored their own constitution. You see what I'm saying? The so-called, what they call us African Americans, we don't have a country, we don't have a nation. Those are two different things. See, Dr. Claude Anderson, he's a good dude, but he doesn't understand geopolitical politics. The reasons why the Asians were able to, the reason why the Chinese got Chinatowns all over America is because of China. You see what I'm saying? The reasons why Italian Americans can come here and do their things because of Italy. Everyone has a country backing them. But who backs the African Americans? Now, what I'm showing you is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It's the largest and oldest agency in the country. It was made because what they basically did, we know how America started, right? They came here, displaced the people, slaughtered the people, removed the people from their land, and then turned around and did the whole ownership thing. So when it was free, they could just take the land. Now it's owned land. You see how that works? They just said, well, it's free land. We're going to take it, but now we're going to sell it back to you. You see how that works? So the reason why I show you guys this right now is because you can look at it. The link is bla.gov. You can look at it. Down here, though, is the most important part you want to read. I'm not going to read it because it's a long, complicated process. But it shows you how you can get, and this is the funny part. Now, this is how sick America is. It shows you how you can get recognized as a tribe, enrollment in a federally recognized tribe. Now, why do we want to be federally recognized as a tribe? Well, because then we get our own jurisdictional land and we can do whatever the fuck we want. We're not subject to federal laws, state laws, city laws, local laws, right? We actually get access to a greater pool of money. Like they got a site called grants.gov, man. They got all the bread out there. And if you look at no matter what it is that they're giving grant money for, they have eligibility, and every eligibility criteria you will see federally recognized tribe. And you can be a federally recognized tribe in some states, in some counties, in some cities. And the reason why I bring this up is because until we identify with something except them, we have no power. Understand, they stole this country. They stole this country from a god, the King of England. They got no intentions of ever letting us get it. Okay, they'll fucking blow it up before they let us get it. Understand that they stole this country from a person who was anointed by the divine as you know, a king. That's what a king is, right? So they got no intentions of giving it to slaves. And I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole because you know, when you understand the motifs of America, it's based on Rome and Greek and the slave revolts of Rome and all this energy. You know, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but that's where we're at. The slaves can never be allowed dominion over the masters. It's just never going to happen. So the voting thing, we can forget about that, right? It doesn't matter. It's true. We just along for the ride. We got 300 million Caucasians who don't need blankets, and we got 50 million so-called blacks who need blankets. Guess what? The 300 million gonna say, we don't need no blankets. So that's what they're gonna say. But check out that site. It'll give you more color. I don't want to speak too much about it, but I want to start putting this information out there to y'all to show you that it's and that's the hypocrisy of it, right? So you are a people. Someone came, invaded your land, took over, and now you got to tell them to recognize you. That's a hypocrisy. You see what I'm saying? It's like, go on.
No, I would say the worst thing that could happen was Reverend Jesse Jackson asking them to name us African Americans in 1986.
Yeah.
That was the worst
But
thing.
we're not really, but let's be honest though. We're not really from the Garden of Eden. I mean, I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe no longer to the transatlantic thing and the transatlantic hoax and I don't subscribe. We're of a phenotype, but do we really want to keep going with that Garden of Eden thing? Do we want to give them, like, they can't even put a man on the moon, but we want to give them credit for socially displacing 100 million people in like 300 years? Like, that's, I don't know about that. That
now,
just don't sound
the
right
discrepancy I have with that is that whether you believe, because I know the narrative that you're talking about, and I know the other narratives. Now, if you're a proponent that, you know, majority of so-called Black America are the indigenous populace that were here when they came over and colonized, that is a true statement.
Yes,
Are you,
that's
if
correct.
you believe
Yes.
that, you know, the
Yes.
transatlantic slave trade took place with
No.
the people
No.
that so-called African Americans or blacks took place, I would say that did take place also. I believe that both narratives took place. I believe that, hold on, before you finish,
Okay,
I'm gonna just say this. The reason I say that is because there's documentation of so-called indigenous people traversing the seas back and forth, whether it was from Africa or America. You can find documentations of them, one being cargoed from South to North America or vice versa. You can find documentation of them being cargoed from the Americas to the Europe and those regions. And then you do also have documentations of a small faction being cargoed from northern, I want to say northern, but from the places of this slave trade coming out of Western Africa. Now, the information pertaining to how it happened may be skewed, may be embellished, maybe as like Dane Calloway and some others say is in reverse. But there's a strong argument that all of those things took place but probably not exactly how it was told or taught to us.
Yeah, that's just how I think about it.
No,
You-
Oh, go on, Hilltop, go on.
no. I was just saying that's the way I think about it. Is the same way Daniel Hooker broke it down. You can go ahead, Will.
No, I was just gonna say that I don't agree with any of that at all because when I do the numbers and thankfully for the language model, what you guys call AI, we can do some pretty astute calculation. We know slave ships can hold so many people. We know like the whole reason why this new argument started, where they were like, show me the forest in Europe that was cleared to make ships. Shipbuilding is a very um, specific type of wood. Where is the forest that was cleared to make all these ships? Because the voyages take hundreds of days if they go well. Intermittent weather shit. Columbus got lost and he had a goddamn armada. He started with like 20 ships. Got here, he had four. You know, so we're talking about extremely perfect conditions. It's just too. I think that we were already here, and again, like they invented the Council of Nicaea. They invent a couple of other things. They invented aliens with UFOs. This is just another way for them to invent, ignoring our sovereignty, that we were already in this hemisphere. We
I
were
think
already
I
in this
think we're
hemisphere.
in agreement with that aspect.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can get, for one, they don't, there's no way to realistically calculate those. Did he fall off?
Damn, my bad, Will. Hit that. Hold on, Will. I was trying to take his share screen off.
But
Will
yeah,
hit that
just to,
screen, y'all.
to continue on that, I don't think there's no realistic way for them to calculate the numbers that they calculated as far as 100 million plus people coming over on the transatlantic slave trade. Um, I would have to be shown that evidence and how they came to those numbers. I think they were projecting numbers to say that's, to fit a narrative. I do believe that a lot of us were already over here, but then you have to then go to the historical argument that how did the people over here get here? Because now you go into different narratives as far as America being the original old country, or to the narrative that um, so-called Africans and so-called Semites came over here by way of seafaring way, Canaanites and so forth, who established colonies here in America, and that the majority of the indigenous Aboriginals over here descended from them. So there's different arguments and different things of information out there that one could say this, that, or a third happened. But
Yeah.
that's definitely something, Wolf, we could get on another podcast and talk. I don't want to, because that's going to leading us far away from
Exactly,
the
exactly. That's why I didn't want to. I told you that. Yeah, I told you that.
But listen,
That's a week-long conversation. We could do that
yeah,
all day.
that's a very interesting one though. That's
Mm.
something I would love to chop it up with you with. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's
So,
cool. Yeah.
um,
Anytime.
with that being said, let's hit on the. Did anybody have anything else as far as the voting? I do want to give this disclaimer. I do want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, or I will have to go find it. I do want to say that Dr. Claude Anderson did say, or echo what you said as far as not having a homeland that backs us, because when you are dealing with nationalities or nations, they're only one of the prerequisites of being identified and respected among the world platform is having a homeland or some type of territory that is yours, that pertains to you and your people. So I want to say that he did mention that, but I know that a lot of his talking points is what can so-called Black people do right now here in America in the condition and state we are right now as far as advancing ourselves.
Nothing. It's too late.
So with that being said, let's go to, because for anybody that just chimed in, we're talking about voting. We've actually hit on a lot of subjects tonight, quite a few interesting ones, but we're really trying to just analyze in a very small window of time, does the Black vote matter for so-called Black America? And if it does, which level of voting should so-called black Americans vote on, because a lot of times we see the Super Bowl of voting, which is the federal vote with the presidential race. But do you actually see any significant benefits within your communities when you vote on these candidates? So we're going to look at this next video. It's titled Local Elections versus Presidential Elections. It's actually a short, so that's good that is a short, small amount of time. But what they say in this is very profound. So if you would, brother, go ahead and knock that on out.
What can you say to the black person out there that doesn't have faith in the upcoming election and feels like no vote is just better than whatever the fuck they got going on?
Man, your local vote is the most important vote you're going to vote. Who's your congressman, who's your senator, who's your prosecutor, who's your judge. And why it's most important? Because you can show up at their motherfucking office.
What do you say to the person that agrees with that but says fuck the presidential election?
I would tell you something. I went to Atlanta Metro. The teacher's a millionaire, black teacher. And he says to us, y'all better get out and vote, because if Bush win, all of y'all are fucked. When he said that, I quit college at that moment. I was like, ain't no point in me being here. This nigga's basically telling me, you fucked if this guy win. If you're going to get involved in politics, get involved in local politics, because that's where you can make the biggest difference. And obviously the president is like the Super Bowl of politics. I think everybody gets into it, but you can't control who wins, but you can't control your life. So focus on your decisions, what you do and the decisions you make. And as long as you're doing that, it doesn't matter who the president is, because your job is to take care of you and yours, not depend on who the president is to help us take care of me and mine.
What can you...
Wow, that little segment right there. That's a very powerful segment right there.
Yeah, because that's what I did at the beginning of the show. You know, what Joe Button, what Mike, the Killer Mike said at the beginning, when he said, you know, you could show up at the office, a person local. You can't show up at the White House. You grew up with the person in the office, the Sandlot, y'all play Sandlot all together. You know, if it's a woman, you know, you might have dated her. She might have been your little girlfriend in middle school, junior high. But you can't show up at White House. You know what I'm saying? Plus, there's no electoral votes now on the local level. It's just vote for vote. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I mean, the local election, this is a conversation me and a sister that I know for a long time. She's right now a defense attorney, but she was a New York DA at one time, and her family is entwined in the local political scene here. But we used to always have these in-depth conversations about the vote. And she used to always try to convince me, oh, you should vote. Your vote matter, blah, blah, blah. But she was a Democrat. And I used to always say, I'm not voting. You know what I'm saying? I voted for Obama, but I'm not voting because I feel like at the end of the day, like you said, you can't control who you're voting for on the federal level. They're giving you a pre-selected, you know, pool to pick from. And within that pool, you have to vote. And we already know that the independent vote never gets any traction. That never gets any traction whatsoever. I don't care what they say as to why it doesn't get no traction. We already know why it doesn't, because for one, they're just suppressing it from the jump, whether it be economic, whether it be, you know, advertisement, whether it be, you know, just the voting itself, you know, altering the count, whatever the case may be. And I said, I'm not doing that. But as I started, she actually sparked me to start looking into it as to, should I vote or shouldn't I? So when I came to the thought process to look into it, I saw that the local, like if you are going to vote, voting on the local level is the most beneficial level to vote at. And the reason I say that when you look into it, because it has the most direct and substantial benefits for the population. You are able to control the education that your kids are receiving. You're able to control the public safety, the housing, the infrastructure within the community, the people that represent the community. You're able to voice, you know, your concerns, your admirations directly to the candidates that you're voting for or have put into office, and you can take their behinds out if they're not doing their job. And you can put people from within your community within office if they fit the criteria, which is the most important part, because no matter how you vote, if us as a people don't unify and have a unified voice, a unified agenda, and use our unified dollars to put people in office that's going to put our unified idea in place, it don't matter who you voting for. So it all starts with the unification of the people. So the people have to be educated. We have to first get educated. We have to pool our money and our resources together. And then as a unified front, this is when we start controlling the narrative, because now we can start putting people in place. It's almost like a mafia movie. You remember The Godfather? What'd he do? He put all his kids into different areas of expertise: the medical field, the judicial fields, the political field, so forth and so on. Why? Because once you learn all of these fields, you can come back and benefit the family. We get in trouble, I'm going to my son, who I put through law school. Health issues, my daughter is taking care of that because she's a physician or a doctor or a surgeon. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my nephew, he's a politician who's going to put laws in place that's going to exempt us from this, that, and the third. This is what so-called Black America has to do. This is what the scriptures actually tell you what to do in the land of your captivity. But we don't understand this because, like the brother mentioned earlier, we're miseducated. We don't have the knowledge or the know-how or the wisdom. And then when people come that do have the know-how, wisdom, we shuck and jive, or we bucket or scoff at it. So we really need to get out of this deep sleep that we in and really start listening to people that's coming, because like he said earlier, the travel wolf, it's a good possibility they can come for him because of the information that he puts out. Us talking about this, me, Hilltop, Wolf, and others, many others, you don't think that the algorithm is showing that we're talking about things that is a detriment to the system at hand, that we can't be put on the list, that they can't one day come for us because we're trying to educate and uplift our people to empower them to be who they need to be? Yes, these things can happen. So you need to really start taking heed and listening to what brothers and sisters are bringing out. We need to get away from the discrepancies in the information and gravitate towards the things that we know is a solid. You know, there's definitive information, and then there's the gray area information. The gray area information, I think we harp on that too much, and not the concrete factual information that we know is exact and right. So with that, you know, I think we need to be unified, and that's where the local voting comes into place. That's where our power is if you're going to vote.
Traveling Will.
Since we're on the topic of voting, something came to mind real quick that I want to share with you because I was researching it. There's a book everyone should go get called "The Devil You Know" by Charles M. Blow. It's a great book. He talks about how we got manipulated into this great migration, right? He talks about how we had a concentration of certain states. I'm trying to get the exact quote, because for a time, what we're talking about, the Electoral College is really what we're talking about, right? For a time, our concentration in these states that he talks about would have granted us a dominant control, and not just the Electoral College, but in controlling the swing vote in every election. I'm trying to get the exact quotes because they bury it. He had to bury it so deep in the book, the strategies that he talks about politically for us vote. Like right now, he's still advocating that every African American, if you're not in, I think, Mississippi, Alabama, and I can't think of the other state, we all need to migrate back to those states now, because you would have a less dilution of the population. See, the Electoral College, it works in a weird way. It works by the Census Bureau. And what does the Census Bureau do, right? That counts people. So when they count people for states,
correct,
they assign Congress people. And when they assign Congress people, the more Congress people a state has, each of those Congress people is an actual electoral vote. So in his
correct,
book, The Devil You Know, his strategy was we went back to our post-Civil War concentration before the Great Migration. If we went back to those levels, I think it was Alabama. I know it was Alabama, Mississippi. I can't think of the other state, but those three states, right, would have gave us real political control in what they call the swing vote, which, as we know, is when occasionally, every so many years, the white people come to a deadlock, right? They get 49.2% and 49.3%. Not enough of the majority, but now the one has lost. And so that's where we would come in and be able to really power broke our way into a better circumstance. And he said we would be able to have, if we didn't get, the Great Migration was due to Jim Crow, white supremacy. If we weren't so pressured to leave because of that, if we had just stayed concentrated, we would have had a lot of political power in a way that we're talking about now. But to me, it's irrelevant to talk about it right now because everything in life comes from a point of no return, and we're like past that point of no return. Like we can't do anything but go forward. All we can do is go forward. We can't change anything. What's happened has already happened. All we can do is go forward. So, I think that there are some things we can do in the future, but they're radical. It's like we all got to move back down south. That's radical, right? But if we do, here it goes right here. Here it goes right here. Okay, look. He said right here. He say the same year that the Civil War ended, there's two states among those with the largest percentage of Black people: Mississippi with 54% in the 1870 census, and South Carolina with 59. No, that's not it. That's not what he's talking about. But you get where he's going at in the book, right? He really breaks down the numbers. Hold on, let me see here. He goes, okay, like this. He says 8 states: Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Idaho, Wyoming, and Iowa are over 90% white and control 1 out of every 6 Senate seats in America. The Black population is 4 times the population of those 8 states combined, but controls no Senate seats. So what he's advocating for is that we either got to all move to 1 or 2 states, right, where we can guarantee ourselves, if not one state has 2 senators that is Black, and another state has 1, that we at least get either anywhere from 2 in between the 2 states, or a combined 3 senators that we control between the combined states. And if you understand how America works, remember what I said, I was talking about Rome, right? America is modeled after the motif of Rome, where the senators really run it, not the president. Let's be honest. The senators, they be in there for 50, 60 years. The president's a flunky compared to them. He's only there for 4 years. Look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden got 60 years. Joe Biden got literally 60 years in political office. If he wasn't in America, we would call that a dictatorship.
Yeah, and he wrote a lot of laws and legislation.
If he was in another country, they'd be calling him a dictator. 60 years. One person putting brothers in jail, keeping us poor, doing a whole bunch of stuff. Vice president. Then he come back as president. Then he ain't want to leave. He started falling asleep. Then they was trying to keep him. It's no, listen. Let me tell you this funny story real quick. This anecdotal story, real quick. You guys may not remember that there was a New York governor called Governor Switchinger, right? Anyway, he got in trouble with some escorts and shit like that. He had a lot of political enemies. They used that against him to get him removed from the governorship. But in their haste, they never thought, who's his backup? Who replaces him? And that was Governor Peterson, the first Black governor of New York, a blind, freaky, cocaine-snorting Black man. So the point I say is that once again they were like, damn, we don't want Biden to go, but if he don't wake up tomorrow, Kamala Harris is really in charge. You know what I'm saying? She's not in charge yet. She has to run. But if Biden was to have posthumously passed, she would be in charge, and that would change everything. So they were like, no, he got to step down now, because people don't know the rules of succession. If he was to pass, she doesn't become president. It goes to the Speaker of the House, because it's in an election year. That's the exception. It's the little clause they got in there about the president passing during an election year. the Speaker of the House can be nominated the President pro tem until the next president is elected officially by the people. You see what I'm saying? So that's how they thinking ahead. They're like, man, if he go, what we gonna do? We don't want her to be president. But anyway, that's a little anecdotal story for you to entertain you. But go check out this book, The Devil You Know. He's also got a couple of videos on YouTube. I'm trying to find the quotes from the book, but he had to bury the stuff so deep because he basically gave us like it's literally called The Devil You Know, a Black Power Manifesto. Like he literally gave us the game about going forward, what we have to do. We have to all move back down to the South, or maybe not the South, but we have to move all to like Hilltop, where you live, right? Yadea, where do you live, right? And I live in Hawaii, right? That's bullshit. We all need to be in Detroit. You know? We should all be in one. All of us got to go to one fucking state. Every Black person in America needs to just all migrate to one state where we can control some senators. Because remember, this is how they tricked Obama. They dangled the presidency in front of him. Up to that point, Obama was the only Black senator. We still don't have a Black senator. He never got replaced. Okay? And the senators run the show. They pass the laws. They decide who get paid. They decide who get what money and where and this, that, and the third. And the way they can get rid of the president because he's a flunky. They can impeach the president, right? They're not really as adversarial as they are working together. They can declare wars. Man, the senators do a lot of shit, bro. They do so much shit that we don't even know about. Like they do a lot of dirty shit.
Yeah, that's why I said before you joined the show, I said, we as Blacks, we had to move like 3 other top electoral states, and then we could take over those states. Basically, what that means in that book. You know what I'm saying? We find the state with the most electoral votes, like California, Texas. I don't know who else, but I know those 2 states carry some big electoral votes. Even Georgia, Florida. And we take over those states right there, and like I said, we can control through the representatives, Congress, and the states, the senators, like the representatives, and all that right there, the mayors, everything, the governors, everything.
Right.
All the commissioners, so we can have a good representative.
I just want to pull out this verse real quick because he touched on the Senate being, of Roman origin. I'm not misspeaking, my brother. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, no, it is. It is a Roman origin. So real quick, let me give everyone a little history lesson. So remember, okay, you got the Church of England, right? England, right? It wasn't called England. It was called Britannia. It was just a distant colony of Rome. It was a fucking bubba fuck colony of Rome. They was trying to expand, right? Unfortunately, when Rome fell, the last remnants of Rome aristocracy, they ran up there to Britain, and then they had to fight the local people. Then it became Great Britain. Then it became the United Kingdom. There were so many kingdoms that one person just came along and through treachery, deceit, and marriage, he just unified all of them. And then they had other. Then we get to the royal family we have now, right? But that's the royal family we have now is the line that America was stolen from. That's King George. King George came over here with his army and took it from the Spanish, took it from the French, and he was like, yo, this shit is mine, right? Now, the George Washingtons and all of them, they was what we are today. They was the African Americans. They was the people getting taxed heavily. They couldn't say nothing. They had no rights. They was getting beat up. They was getting their land seized, all of that. Then they said, you know what? Forget this dude. He way over there. He ain't never coming here. This is bullshit. You're gonna take this land and build a new nation. And they became outlaws, right? They were subject to death. They became outlaws. Now, their study, their education was all the same. It was very limited. It was Latin, it was Greek, it was Rome, right? And so what they didn't understand, but they wasn't that really educated in government. So they just took little models. They took like from Greece, they took democracy and they took the concept of the United States, because Greece is a series of city-states, which is where we get the state concept we have today, right? And from Rome, they took a political body where they didn't have to deal with a king or someone becoming a dictator. That's where they developed the concept of the Senate from. It's exact like the Senate in Rome and the Senate here is exactly the same. America is so much a motif of Rome. That's why you have the gold eagle on top of the flag. The gold eagle was something they would give to their best legions. Their best legions would march with this totem. At the top was a gold eagle. They made a whole movie about it. It was like a symbol of respect and pride for their best legions. America adopted it as their emblem, as their seal of America, the gold eagle, right? So I'm gonna let you go right now, but I'm just saying that, just understand that the political body, the concept of slavery, of chattel slavery, all that stuff comes from them pulling pieces of things that they learn as part of their education. A little bit of Greek, a little bit, even our laws, right? Our jurisprudence is all in Latin. You hear the Sovereign Brothers, right? The Sovereign Brothers. You know what they're doing wrong? They're right about everything. But what they're doing wrong is they're not speaking it in Latin. If you went to law school, you would learn that they teach you your laws in Latin. They teach you a whole bunch of shit in Latin. First they teach you Latin, then they teach you how to read and speak those laws in Latin. If you go into courtrooms and you start saying shit in Latin, watch how quickly that shit change. And that's what the sovereign movement don't understand. Nobody ain't listening to them in English because they know they can get away with that. But even our laws are based the ones that matter are spoken in Latin. Look that shit up, you know?
Yeah, the further back you get into linguistics, the purer the definitions and understanding is. English is a bastardized language, specializing in double talk. So, they're not going to be able to get away with that. But if you're in the Hebraic community, I don't know how deep you are in it, brother. Like, we have a pretty general understanding of the eagle, and knowing that most of these empires are a remnant of a select group of people that have moved about throughout the world, throughout history, just wash, rinse, repeat in the process of hostile takeover, ruling, putting progeny in power, and then replicating the process. And the eagle is their emblem. So when you trace that eagle back, you kind of get to the root, as you said, of Satan. But with that being said, I agree with you.
What you mean, Marduk? We get it wrong. It's not. It's Marduk, but that's another topic for another day.
Hold on, I didn't catch that. That was who?
Oh, so we misinterpret Satan for Marduk. They're two different people. There is a Satan, but what America, what the deity that we're talking about when we say Satan is really Marduk. Okay,
right.
He's the horn god. Satan is another celestial entity that is just as evil, but people always mistake Satan for Lucifer, and not even the same thing, because Lucifer was the highest archangel who basically, he's not a bad guy. He just fucked us up with some knowledge, and then he became the steward of our souls. Meaning he responsible for the fucking sin we created, because he gave us the illumination. He fucking woke us up, So he's not really a bad guy.
Right. It's funny you say that, because anybody viewing the channel, you can go back into the archives on the Scoring Black Man podcast. The brother Fred Israel brought out the devil, Satan, and Lucifer. Are they the same people? Go back, check that out. He breaks it down eloquently. And like you said, brother, they are different entities.
Yeah, they are. They're different. But the one that they keep secret from you is Marduk. So going into the pop culture shit, right? This why they don't understand. Going into the pop culture shit, you got all that's left is you got the the Church of England, the Holy Church of England. You got the Baphomet. That's I think that's LA. And you got one more, I can't remember now off the top of my tongue. See, they put in a spell on me, they spell casting. But it's three of these motherfuckers that are left. It's the Holy Church of England, they wicked as fuck. It's the Baphomet. That's the LA. That's the Holly. That's the Hollywood. Those are the spell catchers, the spellcasters, right? They cast the spells on us through the music and the entertainment and the TV. You know, that's them. And then you got this one more. I can't put my name on it, but it's what's going on right now in real time with the how they kicked one of the royal sons out, Prince Harry, because he married Meghan Markle, right? They said, you ain't royal no more, bitch. Get out of here. They said, you ain't royal no more. Go to Hollywood with that bitch. That's how the Baphomet was using him through her to try to infiltrate the most powerful institution on the planet, the Holy Royal Church of England. That's like the last thing left. Like they've been trying to break into there forever. So, but I can't think of the third one. Oh, the Illuminati. That's it, the Illuminati. And you got the Illuminati, which is something totally different. So people keep talking about these things. They're not necessarily good things, but people misunderstand that they're not all identical. And they all have different agendas, and they're all actually warring against each other. And they've been warring against each other for a very long time. You know?
Yeah, exactly. If you look into that, all of those institutions don't necessarily run together, you know, against popular belief, because they all kind of mix and mold and meld them all into like one identity, and that's not really the case. It's a bunch of splinter groups of people. You know, when you go into the Council of 300, you go into the Rothschilds, you going into the Bilderberg, you go into the church, you know, the Pope, and various other entities, and there's so many more, so many people that spoke on it. Is, you know, it's a vibe for power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Really quick, just I want to touch on this because.
Hold that thought before you move on. I want to share with you guys the video.
Hold on, bro. Let me get this out real quick.
Okay, go on. Okay.
Hold that thought.
I found the clip. Yeah, I found the clip.
You mentioned that just to show, because you mentioned the ego. You mentioned that this is under pretty much Roman influence or control.
Yeah.
So when you read it in the First Maccabees chapter 8, verse 15, this is talk about the Grecians. And if anybody know anything about history, Rome conquered Greece. They became known as the Greco-Roman Empire. So it says, moreover, they had made for themselves a senate house wherein 320 men sat at council daily, consulting always for the people, to the end that they might be well ordered, and that they committed their government to one man every year, who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them. So when you read that scripture, it lets you know, it gives you a glimpse into history that we are operating, as the brother said, under a Greco-Roman system, and never was destroyed or demolished. It just went underground and resurfaced in various areas through various times in history. And now you have it here in America, which is why I said most of us in the Israelite community have some understanding or knowledge of the significance of the eagle, which is mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 28.
Yeah.
You don't understand what I'm saying?
Yep. Deuteronomy 28. Yep, exactly. Yep, that's true. But I want to show you the thing about the electoral college real quick. I found the clip. I want to share that with everyone. It's about the voting. I want it so you can see what he was, because they bury it so fucking deep in the book, and he really talks about it, because it's almost like heresy to these people. To white people, it's like heresy. Here it goes.
All right, and then after this, I think we're gonna close out after this clip.
Okay. Here we go.
The book proposal that said that, you know, when Black people took part in the Great Migration, they left the devil they knew for the devil they didn't, only to come to realize that the devil is the devil, that racism was everywhere. And so the devil, you know, in this context is the racism itself, ubiquitous in America.
Well, that's interesting. So let's get right into a deep dive into the book. What I find refreshing about it is that you see a lot of public policy autopsy books who just talk about the problem, whine about it, but you will have a specific proposal. Tell us what that proposal is in terms of the recolonization, if you may.
Yes. So at the end of the Civil War, 3 Southern states were majority Black. 3 others were within 4 percentage points of being majority Black. if Black people had not migrated, and I understand why they did, but if they had not migrated, it is possible that Black people could control up to 14 Senate seats or be the majority part of the coalition to do that. It is possible that they could have controlled more electoral college votes than California and New York State combined. It is possible that they would have real power on a state level. And so what I am saying to Black America, particularly young Black Americans, I saw you in the streets. I have seen you protesting about this. I've heard your wails. If you really want a shot at changing the systems that you are protesting against, one of the quickest, most powerful ways to do that is through state power. I'm asking that they consider a reverse migration, which a lot of people are already doing without thinking about political considerations. But I'm saying do it with political intentionality.
All right, so that's it right there. I put the link in the description box for you guys to study that more. Get the book; it's a great book. Like he goes in on the real. He goes in on our future. We can keep talking about this past stuff forever, but until cats start growing locks and want to take their Nazarite vows and all that other cool stuff, you know, and reverse the curse and you know do your altars and your sacrifices, your ewus, your rams, and all that burnt offering stuff. Until we're ready to do that, we gotta think about the future, you know. And he's a brother who put out there what we can do for the future.
Brother Don Yehuda.
Don Yehuda. That's how you say
But yeah, we're gonna it was a great show. My final thought before I pass it to Brother Don Yehuda for his final thoughts and the benediction. Yeah, man. Negroes in America, your vote don't count on a presidential level. On a presidential vote election, your vote don't count. Don't even waste your time. If you want to vote, vote for your local officials, people that you went to school with, people that you know, people that that you've been to war with, people that you played sports in school, everything. They know your struggle. This system is set up. The whole presidential American thing is set up. They're selected, not elected. The Most High is our King. He's our everything. Put your trust in Him. Pray to Him. Come back to His laws and commandments, and maybe we'll get some things done. And I didn't bring this scripture out, but you can read it if you got it. I've got what it said right here. They trust in a nation that cannot save them. You Israelites, you Negroes, you indigenous, what you want to call yourself, but you Black Americans, you trust in a nation that cannot save you. The Most High says in the Bible. Trust in Him. He's our Savior. And with that, I'm gonna pass it to Brother Don Yehuda. Matter of fact, let me end high. The book of Ecclesiastes, or the book of Ecclesiastes, excuse me, chapter 12, verse 13 and 14. Okay, that's it, Don Yehuda. Let us to the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For the Most High shall bring every work into judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. And with that, I'm going to say shalom. I'm going to pass it to my brother, Don Yehuda.
Hey, real quick. Hey, Travel Wolf, if you look in the private chat, I sent you a message.
I see it. Yeah, I see it. I see it.
All right, my closing thoughts. Each individual is responsible for their own decisions, but each one of our decisions affect our community. Without coming together, y'all, as a people, as mentioned in Zephaniah 2:1, because we're the undesired nation, no matter if you vote or not, we won't get ahead as a nation of people. We're the true gods and goddesses who are currently fast asleep here in America and abroad. If you're going to vote, definitely participate in your local elections. Unify with a common demand, voice, and interest, utilizing your unified dollar. This is how we'll begin to build, strengthen, and protect our communities. This is the beginning of exhuming a nation. But as the scripture said in Deuteronomy chapter 17, we shouldn't vote for anybody if they're not of our kindred, because theoretically speaking, your people should be the only ones that look out for you at a level that nobody else can. You're not going to go outside your house to your neighbors and get the same treatment that you should get from the family that's within your house under your roof. So with that saying, let's come back, like Hilltop said, to the law, statute, commandments. Let's get educated. Like the brother Travel Wolf said, for some of y'all that's on another level, start taking your Nazarene vows. If you don't know what that is, get educated on that. But it all culminates to this one thing, like he read: fear the Most High Yah, and everything else is irrelevant. With that, I say shalom and peace, and Travel Wolf. Go ahead, Hilltop.
Oh,
One thing,
no, I don't got nothing to say. I'm good. But thank
one
you,
thing,
though.
and Will, you're definitely going to have to set up a show. You can start making that thumbnail whenever you can. Negroes indigenous to America, transatlantic slave trade, or both. They're gonna be a hell of a show. That's gonna be a hell of a show.
Negroes
We're gonna
indigenous
we're gonna
to
bring Doug Calloway out of everybody, man. Bring Dan Calloway out. What's his damn name is?
Indigenous to America or the transatlantic. I mean, like I said, I'm
that's
down
gonna
for
be a
that.
thought. No, it's gonna be a show.
That's a week long. See, here goes the thing now. I'm all for doing the real work, but I don't want to throw pebbles at the ocean. You know what I'm saying? I want to throw asteroids into the ocean. So like my thinking is I would find it purposeful to do it if, like, the three of us right here, right? Why don't we get together offline and we work on our own documentary about it? It don't got to be a long documentary. It could be like 15-minute documentary, right? We work on our own documentary about it, or we actually do a conference and we can be the people, like we can be whatever we want to be, the panelists or the debaters or whatever we want to be, and we bring in the people who are arbitrary to whatever our position is going to be, and we do a real live conference, like in a real place, have people come and hear us speak on it. And that's how I would like it to be purposeful, because otherwise it's just.
I mean, we got to start a discussion first on it.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to be a part of a. I know, but I don't want to. I know, but I don't want to. I know, but I don't want to be. But what I'm saying is that what I'm saying is that if we do for me, I won't be too much interested in it on YouTube, because I feel like it's just going to turn into a witch hunt. You know what I mean? And we are not on a platform that we control or we have a vested interest in. They have a vested interest in a whole bunch of trolling and misinformation, and you can't even use the C word here. They're going to call it the C word, the conspiracy word, and I'm not with all that, because I know if you were to sit back and think about it, right? Let's think about this real quick. And this is probably what I'll finish with saying. I'll end with this. So you want me to believe that men who invented fire in the wheel, in the home, the shelter, right? Domestication and agriculture. You want me to believe fishing, some type of seamanship, right? You want me to believe that they sat at those shores for millennials and never said, "Hey, what's on the other side?" It was just the Caucasian men who decided to find. I think the Caucasian men were looking for us, and we were hiding from them like Wakanda, because they came looking for us. Nobody was going looking for Europe. They were coming to look for us. They were like, "Where the black people at? We gotta find them." And that's why they came to the New World. Christopher Columbus didn't come here looking for shit he couldn't take back on a boat. He came here looking for us. You know, they were like, "Where they at? We
But you
can't
know,
find them."
hey, you do know that there's information out there that shows that America actually was the old world, and that is
Yeah, Turtle Island. Yeah.
directly tied to the Indus Valley and people groups such as the Nagas and others. So
Yeah,
that's why I
Turtle
was saying
Island.
there's a lot of information out there that kind of. That's why I agree with you, and then kind of expounded from my point of view that a lot of those narratives I think have a lot of truth in it. I ain't gonna say 100% truth, but they all have a truth to a certain dynamic. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Well,
I think where we have to really dig deep and research.
Okay. Well, man, we're gonna end right there, man.
Oh yeah, that's it right here. Yeah, good night, everybody.
hey, Wolf, did you get my text?
Yeah, I got you, bro. I got you. Good night, everyone. Yeah, I got you.
Hey, peace, love, Calgary, to you all.